presence of the King. Anybody like to be in his presence? Let me sing it again. Oh, how good.
Your number one station with 98.3 FM, WWJ Wireless. Saturday morning gospel start time. Our time stands at 8:30. Going to switch over to Studio B and say good morning to you, Brother Michael Jenkins.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Dee Sportswrap. This is Michael Jenkins on a beautiful Saturday morning. The day that the clock springs forward, right, Tater?
That's right.
Okay, yeah. Good morning, Miss Chanika, Brandon Page, Marcus Johnson. Hope everyone is well out there this morning. State championships are going on as we wind this basketball season down. I've had the pleasure of going over there a couple of times this week. Not every night, but went last night and saw a couple of games. We'll be going back today for a 12 o'clock game. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But first I want to talk about Dillon Girls. What's up, Alex? How you doing, buddy? Dillon Girls had an outstanding run this year. They ran all the way to the state semifinals, or the state finals, should I say. They won the state semifinals, lower state. And congratulations to the Dillon Lady Wildcats for being lower state champs. They finished the season, I think, at 23-4. Of course, they won their conference at 10-0. That was good for a region championship. Then the playoffs started, and they won. Let's see. They beat up Hanahan in the first game, 54-31. Then they knocked off Newberry, bigger, at 65-26. And then the big signature game, which was the lower state finals against Oceanside Collegiate Academy. And Dillon was trailing as they went down the stretch. What's up, Randy Page? How you doing, buddy? As they went down the stretch, and my little friend from over in Dillon, Mariah Campbell, got left open on the left side with Dillon trailing 2. And she strung music, a jump shot for the game winner. It was unbelievable. So I knew that I wanted to be there for the championship game. If they won, I want to see her, and I want to see the Dillon girls win. But unfortunately, that team Walhalla was nothing to play with. They had bigs. They had guards. In fact, I think one of their players was said to be the state player of the year in Class 3A this year, and she was good. But it wasn't really her. They kind of kept her under wraps a little bit. Reese Mo, what's going on? John Nichols, how you doing, buddy? But she was not able to really get loose. Dillon kind of had her in check for the most part. Now, Dillon went to their full court press early in this game. And I believe that's kind of what doomed them. Now, it was working at first. They were shaking them up. Dillon was playing tough physical defense. And those girls, they were finding it very difficult to get the ball off the floor and get into their offense. But Dillon girls looked tired down the stretch. They looked wore out. And why wouldn't they be wore out? They were pressing basically for 3/4 of the game. And, you know, that's not really sustainable long term. And Walhalla was really good. And like I said, those bigs. Because my friend Drac, Mike McCray, told me, he said, Mike, if we run up against a team with some really good bigs inside, we might be in trouble. Because Dillon's not a big team. Some of them, a lot of them play big, but when it comes down to the physicality of size in the paint, Walhalla had that. You know, they really had that over Dillon. And in the end, Dillon couldn't overcome it. So they lost, but there were 32 teams in that bracket. You, Dillon, was one of the last two standing. You are and always will be 2024-25 Class 3A lower state champs. So there's really, you have nothing to be ashamed of. You got there. You got there, and you deserve to be there. And my hat's off to you. I was pulling for you all the way. Good morning, Sean C. Brunson. What's going on, buddy? Now let's talk about what has happened and what will come to pass in this next day. Okay. 1A boys pitted Denmark Olar versus Abbeville. Abbeville, a proud sports program, football, baseball, you name it. The last time I went to Abbeville, I went to see Mullins play in a state championship baseball game. Back in, I think, 98, something like that. And it's a long way from here, but that's not really pertinent to this conversation. Denmark Olar knocked off Abbeville, proud Abbeville, 58-22. In single A girls, and this is where Military Magnet lives, and you don't want to go there because they live there and they own it. They beat Lee Central 59-40. Patrice Holmes, former Lee Central Bishopville great, one of my favorite players over the years. She's now the head coach at Lee Central, and it's good to see Lee Central back in the mix, back in the championship mix. Good morning, Mr. Loris Williams. How are you? We got to get your granddaughter on here. Need to talk to that girl. 3A boys is where Keenan and Powdersville got down. Keenan is a very interesting team. They have tremendous size. I haven't really seen Keenan with this kind of size in a long time. What they don't have is guards. They got a cat back there playing guard. He's about 6'7". And with that high dribble, Keenan's offense was not smooth. But Zach Norris is one of the greatest coaches this state has ever seen. And they were able to pull out a victory 58-53 over the defending state champs, Powdersville. Okay. Dillon lost to Walhalla, as I said. And the final score was 52-37. Of course, Mariah's last second three-point shot, game winner in the state semifinal, will be a highlight for me for years to come. It was great seeing her do it. 4A boys. Now, when I got to Florence yesterday, a game had just ended, and that would be the 4A boys. It was euphoric around there. I seen these people coming out dressed in gold and blue and had Lancaster on their shirt, and I was like, wow. So they were saying, we won, we won. I said, who are you guys? He said, Lancaster. And Lancaster knocked off North Augusta 69-55. This is what George Gurley would say. Looks like they beat him clean. North Augusta was ranked number 1 in the state all year. I'm talking about the whole state. And then they were dropped out of off from the top spot somewhere during the latter part of the season. But in my mind, if they were number 1 all year, they're going to be a problem in the playoffs. And turns out they were. But Lancaster, I think people slept on Lancaster. And they knocked off North Augusta 69-55. I didn't get a score for the North Augusta versus Westside girls class 4A final. 5A Division II Greenville versus Goose Creek. That game happens today at 6. The 5A D2 girls Greenwood versus Berkeley. That game is scheduled for a 4 p.m. tip. I got to see the 5A boys last night in Ridgeview, which many people are calling the very best team in the state, the whole state. And they might be. When I look at the talent level of Ridgeview up and down that lineup, when I look at the pieces that Coach Staley has to call on, as it has at his availability to call on at any time. Look, they got a big guy about 6'8", 6'9", huge kid. Started. He's a starter. He was out of the game for long stretches of this game in the first half last night, and they didn't miss a beat. They brought other tall cats in to continue to work. They got some players on that team. And I saw one guy, they posted a picture of this one kid who was going inside, man. He was driving at will. And when he got to the rim, he was very, very creative and strong. I mean, they couldn't slow him up. So in the end, Ridgeview is the Class 5A Division I state champ by virtue of a 71-47 win over Blythewood. We'll talk a little bit more about Blythewood later because they are one of a select group this year who place boys and girls teams in the final. D1 girls, Blythewood over Somerville, 62-56. If you haven't seen Blythewood, you missed out. Their girls team. They got pieces on this team. These girls are unbelievable. I seen them twice, last weekend and then last night. And number 12, she's the special one. But they got about 4 or 5 others who are right there too, talent-wise. It's hard to beat a team like that. They have size. They got great guards. They're well coached. And they're tough, physical. And Somerville just didn't have what it takes to beat them last night. I don't think on any day Somerville would beat these girls. That's just how good Blythewood is and was this year. Congratulations to them on an outstanding season. Okay. Getting a little bit closer to home, we have one of the few representatives from the PD/Grand Strand actually in the tournament. Man, we didn't do good this year, folks. Only Dillon and Wilson represented through the lower state. Wilson got knocked off before Dillon lost in the finals, but we had nothing else. The PD is in a drought this year. Columbia is racking up championships. The PD got nothing. So, today at 2 p.m., High Point will play against Atlantic Collegiate Academy. And that's the team that Mullins played and lost to in the third round a couple weeks ago. I don't know about High Point. I know they've been highly ranked all year. I think them and Atlantic Collegiate and Mullins were in that whole number 1, number 2, number 3 deal. But at 2 p.m. today, these two academies will hook up. Now, I don't have any problem with academies. They are what they are, okay? And they're not going away, okay? In fact, they're just, there's more and more of them coming along. Now, everybody used to scream about great collegiate. And people screamed so much that eventually the commissioner decided to do something about it. And they upped great collegiate out of the 2A bracket and up to 4A. Okay? So everybody down here was feeling good because nobody wanted to see those guys. So then last year, Atlantic Collegiate came on the scene. And I guess some people knew, but I didn't. that they were going to be a part of the conference that includes Marion and Mullins. Yikes. So now, instead of having to worry about Gray Collegiate down the road in the playoff, you got these cats in your conference. You play them 2 times a year. And then in Mullins' situation, Mullins' case, they had to play them a 3rd time in the playoff. So they parked these guys right in your living room. Now you got to deal with them during the regular season. And potentially, as it was this year, in a playoff matchup. So I don't know if this makes everything great, everything better for people down here, because we got one of these guys right here waiting to take you down in your conference and during a playoff situation. Marcus Johnson says, I think those schools need their own conference. I don't disagree. I don't disagree, Marcus, but there's a lot more things at work here. There's a lot more moving parts here that really could explain why things are the way they are right now and why they're not in their own conference. I think it's money. Now, I do want to say a little side note here. Atlantic Collegiate, they need to get another scoreboard for that gym, because who needs to be in a gym trying to keep track of a score, and you got to be bending your neck like an ostrich to see the scoreboard, because they got one scoreboard in the whole place. Anyway, that's my little sidebar. Moving on, Andrew Jackson girls. And I intend to get there on time to see them, because they have been destroying people this year. And they get to do battle with Eau Claire. And that's a 12 o'clock start. Eau Claire versus Andrew Jackson girls. And Andrew Jackson has suffered quite a bit over the years in terms of they've been getting to state the boys too. They've been getting to state championships, but they've not been winning. They've always been running up against, you guessed it, academies or some highfalutin power that is floating around the state. But Andrew Jackson girls, I don't think that I don't think they're gonna get beat today, because they've been literally running roughshod over people in this tournament and basically all year. So I like to see Andrew Jackson. I'm pulling for them, actually. And because it's been, let me see what their road was to. Their road to the finals. Andrew Jackson, let's see. Okay. Andrew Jackson started out with Barnwell. And they beat Barnwell 79-5. That's like this many fives. Not 5. They then went on to play Marion. Oh boy. And they beat Marion 100-41. And Marion was pretty decent. Keep in mind, Marion was decent this year, but they got beat 100-41. Okay, so then Marion's conference foe, Lake City, took their swing at Andrew Jackson. I'm sorry, speed ahead of myself. Atlantic Collegiate Academy played against Andrew Jackson, and they beat them 99-45. Are you following me, folks? They're slaughtering people. So here comes Lake City. Marion lost to them once, beat them once, I believe. But Lake City tried their hand at Andrew Jackson. Final score, Andrew Jackson 96. Lake City 33. All blowouts. So now Eau Claire is going to try their hand today. I don't like the chances. I think they're going to be in real big trouble today against Andrew Jackson, but I definitely intend to be there to see it. Okay, and the rest of the day will be 5A Division II girls scheduled for a 4 p.m. tip. 5A Division II boys scheduled for a 6 p.m. tip today. And that's going to wrap up the tournament this weekend. Wrap up the state championships. So now yesterday, it was unbelievable when I got there how there were so many cars out there circling that Civic Center, how the parking lots were jam-packed, how the press parking lot was jam-packed, and I couldn't even get in there. I thought I wasn't going to get into the game last night. But I was directed to another parking lot that may as well have been in Canada, because the walk from my car to the Civic Center was like a journey. It was that far away. And then after the game's over, now I got to go way back over there and find my car and all that walking and all that. But it wasn't so bad. But the crowd, by some of the teams that played yesterday, really showed up. I was told that there's a contract in place, I don't know this for sure, that will extend this tournament in Florence for the next 3 to 4 years. That's huge. Over the years, I have gone to state championships, probably over 30 years. Headed to Columbia on this Saturday. It was a long haul. It was quite a trip. It was quite an experience to do this every year, and I loved it. It was a labor of love, but it was hard because if I'm going to be in Columbia for an 11 o'clock tip, and usually that's when the single A's used to play, I got to be out at 8:30. I got to be out of Marion 8:30, just to make sure. Because, there's always the prospects of tickets. Like, I got 2 tickets over the years going to Columbia. One going to the Terrells Bay Three-Peaters championship game. Yeah, I was speeding. I was. And I got flagged. But I think that was either the only time, that was the only time that I got flagged for speeding going to Columbia to a state championship game. And I still got to the game on time, which was good. Good morning, Miss Virginia Ellaby. Herman Hawkins, buddy, what's going on, man? But now that we have this thing in Florence, it's amazing. Because I could go back home right now and take a nap and roll out of my bed at 11 o'clock and still get there on time for an 11 o'clock tip, if that were the case. It's not possible if this is Columbia, okay? Now, the people in the upstate are screaming their heads off. They're not happy. I'll give you an example of one of their arguments. One of their arguments was that some 2 schools that were in the tournament were going to play each other in the lower state or whatever, and that they're really close in proximity in terms of where they live. So the guy says, well, it's a shame that these 2 teams who are 5 miles apart have to travel 200 miles to Florence to play a playoff game. This is the playoff, man. You go where the games are played. A championship game is not going to be played on your home court anyway. I get what he's saying. Oh, because they're closer to Columbia, you know, the whole Columbia bias thing. They want everything up there. And I don't have a problem with that. I love going to Columbia every year. But it ain't there no more right now. It's here. I'm sorry, you guys got to do what we've been doing for 30 years. My bad. So, okay. Terrell says, the story on Blythewood girls, they went 0-19, really, a few years ago. Those girls have now won a state champ. They were 0-19. Hey, Mullins girls, knock, knock. You guys had some offers too. Maybe that's your future. I certainly think it could be. Wow. Good morning, Tiffany McCummings. But yeah, the folks up there on the other side of the state in the Midlands, you know, they've had everything their way for years. Okay? And us little poor folk down here in the PD, and you know, we just follow along. We'll do anything to be there. And we never complained. We loaded up the jalopy and we got on the road. For about 10 of those years, I was dragging my kids along. They were young. Maybe, 13, 10, 7. They were there. That's when they used to let you bring your kids down to the press row and sit next to you. That was fun. But every year. And it cost a bundle back then because, I had to feed them that day. And the food up there was really expensive. But it worked out. And now it's one of the most cherished memories that I have with my children who are like 40, 30-something, and so on. They're all grown up now with kids of their own, some of them. But it was a great, great thing to experience. But the folks in the Midlands and stuff, they don't like this. Now, I saw a lot of talent up there. I didn't really take a lot of notes. I was just kind of just enjoying the games. But this is a good little thing South Carolina's got going on here. Okay? And Florence not being a big town, not being a big city, for them to host this thing is tremendous for the PD. And I'm sure they're bringing in a ton of money. Because parking is $10 a pop. I believe it's $10 to get in. So you got 2 or 3 kids, you got parking, that's probably $40 or $50 already. Now you got to feed them. And there's another thing I didn't like about the Civic Center and the way they did this, is that they didn't accept cash at the concessions. I left my wallet in the car, so I had nothing. They didn't accept cash. Now I'm thinking maybe that happened because maybe they have some contractors that came in and ran the concession. That's what I'm thinking. Terrell Pinckney says, Walhalla bought the whole town the other night. Didn't even complain about it. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. And that's the way it should be. I mean, when they had this thing, the lower state down there at the Citadel, what did we do, folks? We jumped on 41 and went through the woods to get there. We didn't complain. When they had it in that barn, which is the Citadel, because that gym is a barn, we didn't complain. When we went down there and there was no parking anywhere on that campus. So, what are you going to do? Taylor says that's all the time I have left. I will be back next week to kind of like close out what has happened this year. I really enjoyed it. And I really appreciate all of you joining me when you do, whenever you do. I appreciate you. Have a wonderful, safe week. Later.